The forest was silent. Not the silence of peace, but the heavy silence before danger. The tall alien trees reached toward the dark sky, their glowing leaves shining faint blue light. Strange insects buzzed somewhere far away, but no birds sang. No animals moved. It was the kind of silence that made the human traveler uneasy. He had been walking for hours, his boots pressing into soft ground when he first heard it. A voice, faint, trembling, carried by the wind. Please. Human. Help! The man froze. His heart skipped a beat. He turned his head, searching the shadows. The cry came again. Closer now, desperate, almost broken. He followed the sound, pushing past glowing vines that curled around his arms. His breath grew fast, his chest tight. Who was calling him? And why would an alien call for a human? Then, he saw her. A small figure stood between the roots of a massive tree. She was no taller than his waist, her skin pale blue and glowing softly in the dark. Her eyes were wide, full of fear and tears. Long braids of silver hair hung over her shoulders. She looked weak, shaking, yet her voice carried power as she cried out again. Human, please help me, my mother is trapped. The man stepped closer. His instincts told him this was no trick. This was real fear, real need. Trapped? Where? He asked. His voice was low, calm, but inside he felt a storm rising. The girl pointed upward, her hand trembling. High above the trees where the clouds touched the jagged cliffs, something moved. A huge nest clung to the rock wall, built of branches, bones, and shining crystal. It was so large it looked like part of the cliff itself, and from deep inside came an awful sound, the cry of predators. My mother. She's caught in the sky hunter's nest, the girl whispered. If no one saves her, they will eat her when the sun rises. The man stared at the nest. His skin turned cold. He had heard stories of the sky hunters, giant winged beasts that ruled the skies. Their claws could cut through steel. Their eyes saw even in darkness. No one dared climb their cliffs, no one dared fight them. But here, standing before him, was a child who believed only a human could help. Why me? He asked slowly. Why call for a human? The girl's eyes shone like wet glass, because only humans fight when others run. Only humans face danger when others hide. My people are afraid. But you are different. Please, if you don't help, my mother will die. The man looked at her. Small, fragile, yet so full of hope. He felt something stir inside him, something old, something human. He could walk away. He could leave her to her fate. No one would know. But her voice, her plea, it would follow him forever. He clenched his fists. Show me the way, he said. The girl gasped, then nodded quickly. She wiped her tears and stepped forward, clutching his hand like a lifeline. Together they began to move through the alien forest. The silence grew heavier with every step. Shadows shifted between the trees. Above, huge wings flapped, their echoes rolling like thunder. The man tightened his grip on the spear strapped to his back. He felt eyes watching from the dark sky. The girl whispered as they walked. She told him the sky hunters had taken many victims before. None had ever returned. Her people no longer tried to rescue them. They had learned to stay away, to stay alive. But not her. She could not leave her mother. She could not watch her die. The man listened. He said little, but inside he knew the truth. This was madness. To face the sky hunters was death. Yet something about this child's faith in him pushed him forward. He could not fail her. Not now. As they climbed a steep hill, the nest grew closer. The shape of giant wings moved against the stars. The girl trembled, clutching his arm. They know we are coming, she whispered. The man looked up at the cliff, the nest glowing faint in the moonlight. His jaw tightened. Fear burned in his chest. But behind it, another fire grew stronger. He was human, and humans did not turn away. The hunt had already begun. The forest grew darker as the human and the alien girl moved deeper into the unknown. Strange glowing plants lit their path, but their faint light only made the shadows larger. Every tree seemed alive, every branch whispering secrets. The girl walked close to the man, her small hand gripping his tightly. Above them, the night sky was no longer empty. Dark shapes drifted across the stars. At first they seemed like moving clouds, but the man soon realized what they were. Wings. Enormous wings. The girl shivered. "They are watching," she whispered. "The sky hunters. Never sleep, they wait. They circle the forest looking for prey." The man tilted his head, following the shapes with his eyes. Their wingspan was wider than a house. Long tails whipped behind them as they glided silently, their movements smooth and terrifying. For a moment, the human felt like nothing more than an insect under their gaze. The girl continued speaking, her voice trembling. "Long ago, my people tried to fight them. Brave hunters climbed the cliffs with weapons and fire. None returned. The sky hunters. They are more than beasts. They are shadows in the sky. They strike faster than the eye can see. My people gave up. We learned to hide instead." Her words fell heavy on the man's heart. He could hear the fear in her voice, but also the sadness. Her people had accepted defeat, but she, this small trembling child, refused to surrender. They reached a clearing where broken armor and rusted weapons lay scattered. The ground was stained dark, the remains of a forgotten battle. The human bent down, picking up a cracked blade. Its surface was carved with strange alien runes. He turned it in his hand, then let it fall. The sound of metal hitting stone echoed through the forest like a warning. The girl's eyes widened. "Please, do not make noise. They hear everything." The man nodded silently. He tightened his grip on his spear. His ears strained for every sound, the whisper of the wind, the rustle of branches, the faint cry of wings above. Suddenly, a low screech split the night. It was not close, but it was not far either. The girl gasped, pulling at his arm. "They know we are here," she said, her voice shaking. The man turned slowly, his eyes scanning the treetops. Shadows shifted, wings slicing the air. His chest tightened. His instinct screamed to run, but his mind was steady. He had made a promise to this child and to himself. "Tell me," he whispered. "How many are there?" The girl swallowed hard. "No one knows. Some say 6. Others say 10. But there is one leader bigger than the rest. My people call it the Sky King. It chooses who lives and who dies." The human felt a chill run down his spine. The Sky King. A creature even the hunters feared. He imagined it, towering over the nest, its claws dripping with the blood of victims. And somewhere up there, the girl's mother was trapped. The girl's eyes glistened with tears, but her voice grew firm. "If we wait until morning, she will be gone. The hunters always feed at dawn." The human took a deep breath. He looked up again. The shapes above were circling lower now, their shadows crawling across the ground like black hands. He could almost hear the beating of their wings. He leaned down and whispered to the girl, "Stay close, do not leave my side." Together, they moved through the clearing, stepping over bones and broken weapons. The silence was crushing. Every breath felt too loud, every heartbeat too heavy. Then a branch snapped. The man froze. His head turned sharply. Behind them, the trees shifted. Leaves fell. A massive shadow passed between the trunks. The girl's grip tightened around his hand. Her lips trembled. "They are testing us," she whispered. "Hunters never strike at once. They watch first. They scare their prey." And then, her voice broke. The man raised his spear. His eyes scanned the darkness. A shape moved above, a hunter, gliding low, its wings stretching across the trees. Its body was black as the night, but its eyes glowed yellow, burning through the shadows. It tilted its head, watching them, studying them. The girl gasped softly. It marks us. Once chosen, they do not stop until the prey is caught. The hunter screeched, a sound that shook the ground beneath their feet. Then it rose higher, disappearing into the night sky. But the man knew the truth. This was only the beginning. He looked at the girl. "We keep moving," he said firmly. "Your mother is waiting." The girl nodded, though her body trembled. They pressed on deeper into the forest. Above them, more shadows gathered. The hunters were following, silent, patient, waiting for the right moment to strike. The human felt their eyes on him. The fear was real, thick as smoke in his chest. But fear could not stop him now, because in this alien world, where no one else dared to fight, he was human, and humans did not bow to shadows. The path ahead led toward the cliffs, toward the nest, toward death or victory, and the hunters were already circling. The forest grew deeper, darker and stranger as the human and the alien girl walked on. Each step carried them further away from safety and closer to the cliffs where the sky hunters built their nest. The air itself seemed to change. It was heavy, damp, and filled with the smell of moss and old stone. The human tightened his grip on his spear, every sense awake. His eyes moved from shadow to shadow, his ears listening for even the faintest sound. The girl walked beside him, still holding his hand. Her small feet were silent on the soft ground, but her breathing was fast, uneven. All around them, the forest came alive. Strange plants glowed in soft colors, blue, green, even red. Some bent toward them as they passed, like they were watching. Thin vines reached out from the trees, swaying even though no wind blew. Insects with shining wings darted between the plants, leaving trails of light behind them. It was beautiful, but it was not peaceful. The forest felt like a place that had seen too much blood. The girl broke the silence. "No one comes this way anymore. Not since the hunters made their nest. My people fear this forest. They call it the path of silence. They say every step here is followed. Every sound is heard." The man nodded slowly. He could feel it too. The silence was heavy, pressing on his chest, broken only by the distant flap of wings high above. As they climbed a slope, the human noticed something strange on the ground. He knelt and brushed away the dirt. Beneath the soil were bones, long, thin bones, too big to belong to the girl's people. The skull was cracked open, deep claw marks cutting across it. The girl looked away quickly, her eyes filling with tears. "Victims," she whispered. "The hunters never eat everything, they leave bones to scare others." The man rose to his feet, his jaw tight. He felt the weight of the spear in his hand, heavier now than before. These bones were not just a warning. They were a promise of what awaited them if he failed. They moved on, climbing higher. The trees grew taller, their roots twisting like giant snakes across the ground. The glowing plants grew fewer and the light became dim. Strange sounds echoed in the distance, low growls, the hiss of unseen creatures, the crack of branches snapping far away. The girl spoke again, her voice low. "When I was little, my mother told me stories about humans. She said humans were different from all others, not the strongest, not the fastest, not the smartest, but humans never give up, even when they should, even when death is certain." The man glanced at her, surprised. "Your people tell stories about us?" She nodded quickly. "Yes. Some call them legends. Others call them lies. But I believe them. And now, I see you are real." Her words struck deep. He had never thought of himself as a legend. He was only a man with scars and memories. But to her, he was hope. And hope was a burden heavier than any weapon. They reached a narrow path between two cliffs. The air grew colder here, the wind sharp against their faces. Above, the shadows of wings moved again. The girl stopped, her body trembling. "They follow," she whispered. "They wait. They test us." The man looked up. He could see them more clearly now, great dark shapes circling in the night sky. Their wings stretched wide, their movements slow and patient. They were not hunting yet, not attacking. They were studying, watching. The man stepped forward, pulling the girl along. "Then let them watch," he said firmly. "We keep moving." The path grew steep. Loose stones crumbled under their feet, rolling down into the dark below. The girl slipped once, but the man caught her quickly, lifting her with one arm. Her small hands clung to him, her face pressed against his chest. "You are not afraid?" she asked softly. He looked down at her, his eyes hard. "I am afraid, but fear is not enough to stop me." The girl stared at him, her eyes wide. She nodded slowly, as if his words were more powerful than any weapon. As they reached the top of the slope, the forest opened into another clearing. Here the ground was scarred by deep claw marks, the trees broken and bent. The stench of blood filled the air. The man knew this was a hunting ground. The girl pointed toward the cliffs. Far above, the nest glowed faintly in the moonlight. It looked even larger now, hanging from the rocks like a monstrous crown. "My mother is there," she said, her voice shaking. "We must hurry. Time is short." The man looked up, his jaw clenched. The climb ahead was steep, the danger clear. The hunters were closing in. Every second counted. But he also knew this was only the beginning. The girl held his hand tighter, her eyes filled with trust. "Only you can do this," she whispered. The human looked at the nest once more. Fear pressed against him, but beneath, it burned a fire. He was human, and humans did not turn away. The journey had begun, and the shadows above were waiting for their moment to strike. The air was heavy with silence, but the human knew it was not the silence of safety. It was the silence of hunters waiting for their chance. He could feel it in his bones. The alien girl walked close beside him, her small hand gripping his arm so tightly that her fingers shook. Above them, the shadows circled. The wings of the sky hunters cut across the moonlight, stretching wide, gliding smooth. They were patient. They had marked their prey. The path grew narrow, a thin trail along the cliffside. One wrong step, and they would fall into darkness below. The girl kept her eyes forward, whispering prayers in her own tongue. The man kept his eyes upward, watching the sky. His grip tightened on his spear. Then it happened. A sound like tearing air roared above them. A massive shadow dived down. The girl screamed and fell against the cliff wall. The man spun, raising his spear just as the first sky hunter struck. It was huge, its wings wider than a house, its claws long and curved like blades. Its skin was black, its feathers sharp as knives. Two yellow eyes glowed like fire in the dark, locked on the human. The man thrust his spear upward. The point struck the beast's shoulder. The sky hunter screeched, a sound so loud it shook the stones around them. The force of the dive threw the man back, his boots sliding across the rocky ground. Dust filled the air. The girl covered her, face crying out. No one fights them, no one can win. But the human stood. His chest burned, his arms ached, yet he did not run. He planted his feet, gripping the spear again. "Stay behind me," he said firmly. The sky hunter circled above, its wings stirring the air like a storm. Blood dripped from the wound in its shoulder, but the beast was far from weak. It screeched again, louder this time, calling to the others. From the sky, two more shadows answered. The girl gasped. "They come. They always come when one is hurt." The man's jaw tightened. His mind raced. He was outnumbered. He had only one spear, only one chance. But fear did not stop him. Fear only sharpened him. The first hunter swooped again. Its claws reached out, aiming for the girl. Without thinking, the man leapt forward. He drove the spear into the ground at an angle. The hunter struck, its claws smashing against the weapon. The wood cracked but held, and the beast pulled back. With a furious cry, the girl's eyes widened. "You heard it again!" The man's breathing was heavy, his hands trembling, but his eyes were sharp. "Then it can bleed. If it can bleed, it can die." The hunters above screeched in rage. Their shadows grew larger as they circled lower. Dust and feathers filled the air. The girl clung to the cliff wall, her eyes wide with terror, but also with something else, hope. The man picked up his spear, though it was splintered now. He stood tall, facing the sky. His voice was steady, almost calm. Come then, try me. The second hunter dived, its wings slicing through the night. The human braced, lowering his body. At the last moment he rolled aside. The beast's claws tore into stone, ripping a deep scar into the cliffside. Sparks flew. The hunter roared in anger. The human struck, driving his spear into its wing. The beast screeched and pulled away, the spear tearing free, feathers falling like black snow. The girl's voice shook as she cried out, "No one has ever made them fall back. No one but you." The man's chest heaved with breath, sweat dripping down his face. But his eyes never left the sky. He knew more would come. He knew this was only the beginning. The first hunter circled again, slower this time, its movements less certain. The second flew higher, keeping distance, but the third shadow above grew larger, darker, heavier. The girl's eyes widened with terror. "The Sky King," she whispered. "It has seen you." The human's body stiffened. He looked up. High, above, a shape bigger than all the others moved. Its wings stretched across the moon, casting a shadow that swallowed the cliff. Its cry was not like the others. It was deeper, colder, filled with command. The smaller hunters circled wider, obeying. Its call. The girl gripped his arm, her small body shaking. "We cannot fight it, we must hide." But the man shook his head slowly. His voice was low, steady, filled with iron. "No, we cannot hide. Not if we are to reach your mother." The girl looked at him, her eyes wide with fear and belief. He was only one man, one human, yet he stood where no alien ever dared. The hunters circled, the night thick with their cries. The nest loomed above, closer now, glowing faint in the moonlight. Somewhere inside, the girl's mother waited. The human lifted his broken spear. His chest rose with a deep breath. His eyes locked on the shadows above. The first attack was over, but the real hunt had just begun. The climb grew harder with every step. The human and the alien girl moved up the rocky path, their legs trembling, their breaths heavy. The forest was far below now, hidden under a sea of shadows. The wind grew stronger, whistling through cracks in the cliff, carrying with it the smell of rot and blood. The girl clung to the man's arm, her silver braids whipping in the wind. Her eyes were wide, staring at the cliff above them. "The nest is close," she whispered. Her voice shook, but there was no turning back. The man tightened his grip on the spear, now cracked and splintered, yet still deadly in his hands, looked up. The nest clung to the cliff like a black crown, enormous and twisted. It was made of broken trees, bones, and metal stolen from ships. Pieces of armor and weapons gleamed faintly among the branches, reminders of the victims who never returned. The closer they came, the stronger the smell grew. Old blood, feathers, and something worse, something rotten. The man's stomach turned, but he forced himself onward. At the base of the nest, the ground was littered with bones. Human bones, alien bones, skulls cracked open, rib cages torn apart. The girl's steps slowed. Her small hand trembled in his. "Do not look," he said quietly. But she could not look away. Tears welled in her eyes. So many. All gone. The man's jaw tightened. He knew the truth. This was no simple hunt. The sky hunters ruled by fear. They left the dead here as a warning to all who dared to challenge them. A sudden sound broke the silence. A screech. The man raised his head quickly. Above, two sky hunters circled the nest, their wings wide, their eyes glowing in the moonlight. Guardians, watching, waiting. The girl gripped his arm. "My mother is inside. I can feel her, but the guards will never let us pass." The human studied the nest. It was massive, too high to climb directly. The guardians circled close, their cries sharp and cruel. The wind whipped around him, carrying. the beat of their wings like drums of war. Then we make them leave, he said firmly. The girl's eyes widened. No. They will kill you. The man looked at her, his gaze steady. They will try. He stepped forward onto the rocky ledge before the nest. He raised his spear, pointing it toward the circling hunters. His voice cut through the wind. Come then. I am here! The hunters shrieked. Their cries echoed across the cliffs, shaking, loose stones that fell into the darkness below. One of them folded its wings and dove. The air cracked as it came down like a falling star. The man braced, his eyes locked on the beast. At the last moment he stepped aside. The hunter's claws struck stone, sparks flying as they scraped the cliff. The man thrust his spear, driving it deep into the creature's side. The hunter roared, blood spraying across the rocks. It pulled back, wings thrashing wildly. The other hunter dove now, claws open. The man ducked, rolling across the stones. The girl cried out, pressing against the cliff wall, her eyes wide with terror. The second hunter's claw tore through his shoulder, ripping cloth and skin. Pain, burned, but the man did not fall. He gritted his teeth, pushing himself up again. The first hunter screeched, circling back, its blood staining the stones below. The second beat its wings, hovering, waiting for the right strike. Together they moved like shadows, circling him. The girl's voice cracked as she screamed. Behind you! The man spun. A claw slashed through the air, missing his head by inches. He struck with his spear, catching the beast's leg. It roared, pulling back, but not before the wood cracked again, the weapon nearly breaking in two. The girl sobbed. Please, stop. You cannot fight them all. The man's chest heaved with breath, blood dripping from his wound. His eyes burned with fire. I must. For her. For you. The hunters cried out again, their voices carrying into the night. And from deep within the nest, another sound answered. A weaker cry, soft, trembling. The girl gasped. Her body froze. That's her. That's my mother. The human's head turned toward the nest. Between the branches he saw movement. A figure tangled in vines and bones. A woman. Her skin the same pale blue, her hair the same silver. But her body, weak, bound tight by the nest itself. Her eyes, flickered open, glowing faintly as she whispered, Daughter. The girl cried out, her hands reaching toward the nest. Mother. The human's heart pounded. She was alive. Trapped. But alive. The hunters circled lower now, their cries furious. Blood dripped from their wounds, but their rage only grew. They would not let the intruders take what they guarded. The man stood tall, gripping his broken spear. His chest rose with each heavy breath. His eyes locked on the nest, on the woman inside, on the monsters above. The girl clutched his arm. Her, voice breaking. Please, human, save her. The wind howled, the hunters screeched. The nest loomed above like a mouth ready to swallow them whole. The man raised his spear once more, though it was cracked and weak. His voice was steady, strong, filled with fire. I will. And as the guardians swooped down together, the battle for the nest began. The wind howled across the cliff, carrying the cries of the sky hunters. The human stood bleeding, his spear cracked and his body shaking, but his eyes burned with fire. Behind him, the alien girl clung to the rocks, her eyes wide with terror and hope. Above them, her mother hung weakly in the nest, bound by vines and bones. Two sky hunters circled low, their yellow eyes fixed on the intruder. Blood dripped from their wounds, but their hunger was stronger than their pain. Their wings stirred the air into storms, rattling loose stones from the cliff. The girl's voice trembled. We cannot win, human. They are too many. The man's jaw tightened. His chest rose and fell, each breath sharp with pain. He knew she was right. If he fought them one by one, he would die before reaching the nest. But he also knew something else. Sky hunters were proud. They circled, they studied, they tested prey before striking. They believed no one could challenge them, that arrogance could be used against them. He looked at the girl. Listen to me. You must go to your mother. Now. Her eyes widened. What? No, I cannot leave you here. You must, he said firmly. I will draw them away. While they chase me, you climb. Free her. Do not stop, no matter what happens to me. The girl's lips trembled. Tears filled her eyes. But they will kill you. The man gripped her shoulders, his eyes locked on hers. Maybe. But if I do nothing, your mother will die for certain. Trust me. Do not waste this chance. She stared at him, shaking. For a moment, she could not breathe. But then, slowly, she nodded. Her small hand squeezed his arm. I trust you, human. The man turned toward the hunters. His spear felt weak in his hands, splintered and rough. His body ached, but his mind was sharp. He would not defeat them with strength. He would defeat them with a gamble. The hunters shrieked, diving closer. The man raised his spear high, shouting into the storm. Come then, face me. The first hunter dove, its claws reaching out. At the last second, the man rolled aside, swinging his spear upward. The tip struck its wing, tearing feathers and flesh. The beast screamed, crashing against the cliffside, before pulling back into the air. The second hunter came fast, claws slashing. The man dropped low, grabbing a loose stone from the ground. With all his strength, he hurled it upward. The rock struck the beast's eye. It screeched in fury, flapping wildly, blinded on one side. The girl gasped, covering her mouth, but she did not hesitate. She ran toward the nest, her small body climbing over bones and branches. Her hands shook, but she moved quickly, her mother's, weak cries guiding her. The hunters shrieked, their eyes snapping toward her. They had seen. The man roared, thrusting his broken spear into the air. No, look at me! He ran along the ledge, his boots pounding the stone, his body moving fast, despite his pain. He waved his arms, shouted, even hurled another rock into the air. The hunter's eyes followed him, their rage pulling them away from the girl. One dove, claws tearing at the stone where he had been. He rolled aside, barely escaping. Dust and feathers filled the air. The second circled above, screeching commands, its wings black against the moon. The girl climbed, her fingers bleeding as she pulled herself upward. She reached the nest, her breath coming in sharp gasps. Her mother's body was tangled in vines, her skin pale, her eyes half closed. Mother! The girl cried, tearing at the vines with her small hands. The woman stirred weakly, her lips moving. Daughter! The man fought below, his body pushed to the edge. The first hunter landed, its claws slamming into the stone. The impact shook the cliff. The man stumbled back, his boots sliding dangerously close to the edge. The beast lowered, its head, its yellow eyes glowing, its breath hot and foul. The girl screamed. Human! Behind you! He turned just as the hunter struck. He thrust his spear forward. The wood splintered, breaking in half, but the sharp end pierced the beast's chest. Blood sprayed across the rocks. The hunter roared, its wings thrashing, wildly. The man was thrown back, the broken spear still lodged in the beast. He hit the ground hard, pain shooting through his body. He coughed, blood on his lips. His vision blurred, but he forced himself up. The second hunter dove, its claws outstretched. The man grabbed the half-spear, the jagged end sharp enough to cut. He braced himself, waiting. The beast struck. The man rolled aside, jamming the spear upward. The tip tore across the hunter's leg. It screeched, pulling back, but not before its wing clipped him, sending him sprawling across the ground. The girl pulled harder at the vines, tears streaming down her face. Please, human, hold on, the mother's weak voice whispered. He fights. For us. The man dragged himself up again, his chest burning, his body shaking. He looked at the girl, at the mother, at the nest above. Then he looked at the hunters circling, blood dripping from their wounds. This was his gamble. He could not kill them all. But if he could hold them, if he could make them believe he was still a threat, then the girl could save her mother. He spread his arms wide, gripping the broken spear. His voice roared into the storm. I am human, come and face me. The hunters shrieked in fury, their cries echoing across the cliffs. They dove again, together this time, wings like thunder, claws like death. And the man stood his ground. The night sky roared with wings. The two sky hunters dived together, their claws sharp as swords, their eyes burning yellow with fury. The cliff shook as the human stood, broken spear in his hands, blood on his face. His body was weak, but his spirit was iron. Behind him, the alien girl fought against the nest. Her hands tore at the vines binding her mother, her small fingers, bleeding, her breath fast and panicked. "Hold on, human, please hold on," she cried. The first hunter struck. The man raised his half-spear and thrust upward. The jagged tip pierced its chest, driving deep into flesh. The beast screeched, flapping wildly. Blood sprayed across the stones. The impact threw the man backward, his back slamming into the cliff wall. Pain exploded through him, but he refused to let go. He twisted the spear, driving it deeper. The second hunter swooped low, claws reaching for him. With his last strength, the man pulled the first beast forward, using its body as a shield. The second slammed into it, their wings tangling, their screeches deafening. Feathers, blood, and stone filled the air as the monsters crashed against the cliff. The human fell to his knees, gasping, the broken spear still in his hand. His vision blurred, his chest heavy, but he forced himself up. He had no choice. Above, the girl ripped the last vines from her mother's body. The woman slumped into her arms, weak but alive. Tears streamed down the girl's face. "Mother, I've got you. We are not alone. The human came. He fights for us." The woman's eyes opened slowly. She saw him, bleeding, shaking, still standing, and her lips trembled. A human. Here. The hunters untangled themselves, their screeches rising again. Though wounded, though bleeding, they were not finished. They circled back, rage burning in their cries, and then the air grew colder. The girl froze. The human lifted his head. From above, a new shadow fell across the cliff, bigger, darker. Its wings stretched across the moon, covering the sky. Its cry shook the mountains. The Sky King had come. The girl's voice broke with terror. "It's him, the one who rules them all." The human staggered, his body nearly broken, but he did not bow. His grip tightened on the spear's broken shaft. His eyes locked on the monstrous shape. The Sky King descended slowly, its wings beating like thunder. Its eyes glowed red, its claws larger than the girl's entire body. It looked at the human, at the girl, at the freed mother. Its cry was not hunger, it was fury. The girl held her mother tight, tears streaming. "We cannot fight him. He is too strong." The man's voice was steady, though weak. "Then we do not fight him with strength. We fight him with fire." He looked around, his mind racing. His eyes fell on the nest itself, built of dry wood, bones, and feathers. A spark could turn it into a blaze. Slowly, painfully, he pulled a small pouch from his belt. Inside was flint and steel. He had carried it since the beginning, for warmth, for survival. Now it would decide everything. He struck the flint, sparks, flying. The hunters shrieked, sensing danger. The Sky King roared, wings shaking the cliff. The man lit a bundle of dry feathers at his feet. Flames leapt upward, hungry and fast. He hurled it into the nest. Fire spread quickly, racing along branches and bones. Smoke rose into the night. The nest glowed red, flames licking upward. The girl screamed, shielding her mother. "The nest!" "The—" human shouted, his voice like thunder. "Climb down now, take her and go." The girl's eyes filled with tears. "But you— go!" he roared. The girl obeyed. With her mother's arm over her shoulder, she began to climb down the cliff, tears streaming down her face. She looked back once, her heart breaking, but she knew he was right. The fire roared higher. The Sky King screeched in rage, diving toward the man. The smaller hunters followed, their cries deafening. The human stood tall, his broken spear raised. The fire behind him casting his shadow large against the cliff. His voice was steady, filled with defiance. "Come then, face me if you dare." The Sky King struck. Flames exploded upward. The nest collapsed, burning branches falling into the dark. Screeches filled the night as the hunters thrashed in the fire, their wings catching flame. The Sky King roared. its body twisting in rage as the fire consumed its throne. The human was lost in the blaze. The girl reached the forest floor with her mother, her chest heaving, her tears falling fast. She looked up, the nest a tower of fire. Above, she cried out into the night. Human! The flames rose higher, sparks falling like stars. The screeches of the sky hunters grew weaker, fading into the storm. And then, silence. The girl held her mother close, sobbing into her shoulder. The woman stroked her hair weakly, whispering, "He gave everything. For us." The dawn broke, slowly, light spreading across the forest. The fire had burned the nest to ash. The hunters were gone. The girl lifted her face to the sky. Her voice was soft, trembling, but filled with truth. Only a human could have done this.